Healing is more than a hashtag.
Healing is prioritizing your well-being.
Healing is growing through our painful moments.
Healing is loving yourself more and more each day.
Healing is not always pretty, but it's worth it.
Healing is gratitude for another beautiful day.
Healing is gratitude for another beautiful day. Like, that's the way that we want to come in all the time. Healing is gratitude. Come on.
Gratitude. Another beautiful day. I'm always grateful regardless.
And the reality is this. We were just saying this before we even pressed the lives. Things happen, time, technology, people, situations will situation. Things occur. But we still can have gratitude and we still can go forward.
That part, exactly. So that's where I'm at in life, and we're so happy that you tuned in. You're watching, you're listening, because we're gonna just make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen, and it really starts to tie into our topic for today. But before we do that, we'll jump into our introductions. Hey, everybody who's been rocking with us, this is episode 9, which is wild. This is episode 9. Thank you for everyone who's been rocking with us from episode 1, and you tune in. We thank you. For those of you just joining us, we're excited that you're here, and we're jumping into the true definition of healing. That's why we came together to do this podcast. I'm your girl, Steph Jones, also known as Lilac Calandra. I'm a mindfulness life coach and a marriage and family therapist. And I have made, the commitment. I've taken the vow. I've taken the oath, right?
Yes.
To make sure that we're working on our healing journey, and not just so that it looks good, but that we're talking about the things that are even painful, that hurt us and we don't want to talk about. So I've made the commitment to keep my feet planted on the journey to help others, but also to make sure that I too am healing, so that we're not hypocritical. Amen. And that everyone else is getting healed and they're leaps and bounds above us, and we're sitting here still stuck in our trauma. We're not doing that. So, and I am joined by my amazing co-host, who I love so dearly.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love this. I love you. I am none other than Lakeisha J. Rigg, among other hats that I wear. Career coach, mental health advocate, owner of LJR Training and Coaching, and just blessed and grateful for this beautiful day to co-host with my dear sis. We're excited to hear about what we're going to talk about today, and we do have a special guest.
Don't we? Okay, we have a special guest who is going to just lend her expertise to the conversation. And we bring on guests who talk the real stuff, right? That we're not sugarcoating, we're not enabling, we're not kind of beating around the bush. No, we're talking about the real things that happen in the healing process so that we can actually get healed. Because what is the point of going through this process if true healing doesn't occur? So we're excited about that. And speaking of the process, that's what our topic is about. Trusting the process, what that looks like, how we'll do it. We'll talk about the difficulties of it. I mean, sis, trusting the process. I mean, it's hard to trust the process when you don't even trust yourself. That's the first thing that I'll say.
That part. It's hard to trust the process when you're like, sometimes stuff just be happening and you're like, wait, what? Why? So it's hard, but it's necessary. And we are so grateful to have our guest who's going to be able to delve into this with us today. So y'all stay locked in, because it's about to get real.
It's about to get real. And we talk about the real stuff, and we are grateful that those who are attracted to this podcast and to this platform are tired of just going on a spin wheel and in these cycles over and over again, and we're tripping and we're falling and we keep repeating the same things over. It's because we're not really getting down to the root and the core of the healing process, that we have seen a version of it. And the reason, again, the origin of why we even came on to do this, why we came together, was because healing looks so pretty on social media. Oh, we see the hashtags and everybody's in Bali and the Maldives and I'm on a retreat. But when they come home, they're dead inside and they're in pain. And we see celebrities who have a bunch of money and who have access to all these healing things, and they're miserable and they're taking their lives or they're abusing drugs. So we're talking about trusting the process, even when we don't really trust ourselves, and even when we can't see the path ahead of us, we still have to trust the process.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So we're mentioning our guest again. We have joining us Reynette Romain. I am going to read her bio, and if she's anything like us, it's going to make her cringe a little bit, because when you hear your bio read, you're like, oh my gosh, can you just pull me up already? No worries, girl. We have to read the bio because we have the accolades, okay, and we're doing it, so it's okay. We can feel cringy. And is that really me? Yes, we're doing it. Okay. So come on, you need to be celebrated, okay? Hello. You need to be celebrated and lifted up and bigged up and all that. So she is an LCSW, okay? And she's a dedicated therapist based in Florida. She specializes in helping individuals overcome the challenges of starting new life chapters with a focus on reducing anxiety, check, and building self-confidence, check, check. She guides clients through significant transitions and long-standing personal issues. Reynette utilizes specialty modalities to help her clients get unstuck. Come on, by identifying their vision and taking a task-oriented approach. Her mission is to empower individuals to transform their thoughts into reality and live the life they envision. What? Come on. Without further ado, welcome, Reynette.
Well,
hey.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. We thank you for coming on. Just from your bio alone, like, it ties into everything that really is needed for a good recipe for healing. You know what I mean? Talking about getting unstuck and all that. And I want to be honest. I was reading your bio from your website, and that's what even started the topic of trusting the process. Because you had mentioned that clients were like, oh, I didn't know if this was going to work, but it did, so we thank you for what you do in the field, right? It's post-pandemic. It's been wild. We thank you for what you do in the field, and we're excited to hear you and your insight on what it looks like to trust in the process. But please introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump right into talking about trusting the process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies, Stephanie and Lakeisha, for having me on your show. Very honored to be here. So my name is Reynette. As you guys mentioned earlier, I am a passionate social worker, licensed clinical social worker out of Florida and Massachusetts. I am also a mental health counselor. My biggest success, I would say, is I am a proud mother, and I have 2 boys. I believe in the power of positive influence and resilience. I really do. A lot of times people do not know the power that they possess, but little by little, if we're able to point them out, they feel and they understand. So I am dedicated to empowering individuals to overcoming challenges. I believe each one teach one. And whatever you learn, you bring it back to someone else. And that is how we influence growth and influence progress in our communities. So whether I'm supporting families or guiding individuals through mental health struggles, I strive to make a meaningful difference in every interaction that I have. So that's who I am.
Wonderful. And listeners, you can see why we wanted her on this podcast. It fits right into the reality of what we're doing. That healing can get ugly and nasty, and healing can be painful, and it can make you cry. And it's not, it's not pretty. It's rarely pretty. It's rarely pretty, and it's a process that you have to endure and go through. And so, how do you trust that? When you're working with clients, even with yourself, right? Because when you can lead other people through the process, it means that you've been through it already, so what does that look like for you, right? What led you to even wanting to help? And this isn't a question we sent over, but I just thought about it. What led you to even wanting to be in this profession? Like, what caused you to say, this is where I need to be? Because as a therapist too, you have to be a little cuckoo. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying there has to be a level of commitment that you have to want to endure other people's problems and hear this and walk with them and get hit and beat up in the process. So what led you to this path of the helping field in that way?
Ooh. Well, I definitely have an experience of my own. So I was raised in a home. I would consider it, my upbringing was good, no complaints there, but I did have my experiences with, family issues that in the moment I really didn't feel that I could survive or live through. But ultimately, we survive, right? That's what we are. We're survivors. So I've had my in-home experiences with separation from my parent for a period of time. When I say parent, I mean my father. I have witnessed domestic violence, which I am of Caribbean background. So in our culture, it's normalized to a degree, not to say that it's a good thing and it's okay if it happens, but if it does happen, our concept is hush hush, right? Whatever happens in the home stays in the home. So I always knew that I wanted to, I always reached towards my mom. That was the thing, like helping her, right? Even when I couldn't or didn't know that I had a voice to. So I always knew that I wanted to help women, help families, especially in the domestic world. And the community, our community, what we do to target domestic violence situations or homes is separate. That's always the goal, separate. My idea was always, no, keep the family together, just teach them the skills that they need to thrive in the situation instead of escaping the situation. We're all victims of trauma. It's just a matter of knowing that we're victims of trauma and that there is a way out of it. So that's why I came into this profession. I'm very passionate about it. You're right. I do have a story of my own. And my story definitely comes through as I'm helping others.
That's awesome. It looks like we just lost Lakeisha, but that's okay. As soon as she comes back, she'll be added back on. That's beautiful. And I think that's the best way to flow into this conversation, but also to let people know that even if you're in the helping profession, there's always a backstory, and something has encouraged you to keep going and to keep pushing forward. And through you coming through your own process allows you to say, I know this works. And I know that no matter how it looks, that I'm going to help other people get through it. I think it's such a beautiful concept, right? So I just starting the first question, what does trusting the healing process look like? Of course you could do it from your own personal, but professionally, like what does that look like? And I'm going to add Lakeisha back on.
All right. So that is a deep question. Trusting the healing process is all about embracing the journey. That is the biggest part about it. It's not about rushing through the journey. It's not about, I'm here now, but I see myself, there. It's not about focusing on the outcome. It's literally embracing every bit of the journey, even when it's messy, even when it's slow, even when you don't know what's to come, right? So having faith that everything will get better. That is what trusting the healing process looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's major.
Like Usher said, let it burn, right? I'm sorry to reference Usher, but letting it burn is what trusting the healing process feels and looks like.
Letting it burn. And who really wants to be burned? Nobody.
But you have to go through it. You have to go through it. I love not focusing on the outcome or what's down the road, because too many of us do that. And then we might get to somewhere where it seems like, oh, everything is, great and happy. But then the stuff that we didn't let it burn, as you will, we did not let it process, it's going to come right back, and then it's going to be that cycle. So it is so important to go through, let it hurt, cry if you have to, whatever you have to do. But that is so key. We can't just focus on the outcome and the future and the down the road. So good.
So good. And even what you just said, Lakeisha, flows into, the next kind of topic is like, why do people not want to go through the process, right? Like, kind of delving into that. Why do people not want to go through that process? If we're talking about that, letting it burn is a part of the process. And as we know, burning hurts. It's painful. It causes scars and third degree and second degree burns. People really don't want to go through that. So what does that look like when people shy away from this process? Like, what are some reasonings? And the goal is to alert people, right? We are 100% tripped over the things we're not aware of. So the goal is to make people aware of some of the roadblocks they could even be doing right now, like letting them stop from going forward.
There's so many, right? You think of yourself in a situation where it's like, I have experienced something that I didn't expect to experience, right? However, it happened to me. That's our theory. It happened to me. And the goal ultimately is to avoid it from happening again, right? Yeah. So whether it be heartbreak, healing from heartbreak, healing from the loss of a loved one, healing from just loss in general. Once you've experienced that type of pain, you never want to experience it again. So, and knowing that I never want this feeling again. I never want to go through this again. What is the best way to make sure that doesn't happen? We avoid. Right? So we avoid, we resist at all costs. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of discomfort. Nobody likes to be in uncomfortable situations, right? Nobody likes to feel like, I don't know what's going to happen next. We all want control, right? So
everybody.
Yeah. So the difficulty in this is navigating our emotions. Like, it's a big challenge. So a lot of why we try to avoid or do away with trusting the healing process is definitely fear of pain, right? We don't want the pain that comes with it. We don't want to face our emotions. Okay. To us, emotions, there's this concept of emotions aren't real, right? Emotions are real. In the moment, my emotions are telling me something, right? And what it's telling me is to avoid. There's definitely a fear of change. Change can be very difficult to face. A lot of us, and it goes back to the whole theory of being in a comfortable situation. If we are comfortable, why do we need to change anything? Not realizing that change is the area where growth happens. Okay. Discomfort is the area where growth happens. So we don't want to lose control. We fear the uncertainty of certain things. Put yourself in the shoes of anyone else, right? It's just hard in general to trust because of uncertainty and discomfort and fear. To sum it up, there's so much more that goes with this, but the biggest piece is fear and discomfort.
Those are big. I needed to take a moment to pause and reflect,
It's a lot. But I'm sorry.
What'd you say, Lakeisha?
No, I said here. I was just taking it all in. Go ahead.
Taking it all in. What were you going to say, Reynette?
No, I was just thinking, because I wanted to throw a question back to you guys, like in terms of going through the process. Like, can you think of a time where you experienced something difficult and just the idea of, I want this to be over, right? Like, I want to wake up and know that this isn't real. Pinch me, right? And help me to know that this is or isn't real. Have you guys ever experienced anything where it was painful and it was hard, and it was hard for you to trust that it would be okay and things would work out?
Yeah, quite a few experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And
You
yeah, I was gonna say, I know for me, I think the first big traumatic like bomb was when my parents got divorced when I was 11 going on 12. They got divorced in the same month that I was turning 12. And I remember just, yes, wanting it to be over, but not really being able to cope and understand what was happening. And it seemed like that as each year progressed, it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And there was a large part of me sitting at the grown age of 36 now, there was a large part of me that thought that this would never be over. I would never stop feeling this pain. I would never get out of this. I would never be able to be in love. I would never be able to be married. I'd never be able to do any of that, be in a relationship, any of that based on what happened. And I remember wanting to rush that process. And right, just as you said, I wanted to wake up the next morning and just be done with the heartache and the headache and just the pain, the emotionalism of it all. But trusting that process brought me to where I am now, and I'm grateful for that process. So yeah, there's a gratitude now instead of me dreading it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Even the aftermath of it, right? Where you say, because I experienced the divorce of my parents, in your mind, you felt like I would never be able to experience love. I would never get married. That is a part of the healing process. A part of it is deciphering between what is real and what isn't, right? This was their reality, their meaning your parents' reality, not so much my reality. But the hard part of this is no matter what the experience is, it shapes and it molds us. It shapes and it molds our thinking, it molds our actions, right? And a lot of times we mindlessly go through the motion. We're not even thinking, we're just on survivor mode. This is what I felt. This is what I want to avoid. This is how I'm going to avoid it by any means necessary. And what comes with that is avoidance of relationships, right? Avoidance of feeling. I don't want to feel because it's uncomfortable and it hurts. But that is all a part of the healing process. Thank you so much, Steph, for being so vulnerable with that information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sis. Thank you for sharing that. As for me, something with extreme pain that I just couldn't even fathom how I would be able to make it through the process, is the passing of my absolute best friend, my first love, my mother, last year, May. And my heart hurts so bad. Just inconsolable. And I'm the oldest child. I have one younger brother. So just every layer of her belief and and still having to function in everyday life. And I'm a teacher, high school teacher, a small business owner, and I host this co-host this amazing podcast and other things, because as both of you, I pretty much have a life of service, and so dealing with that grief and still simultaneously doing those other things that what I may not have thought about, it really just really took a hold of me. But I am also a woman of faith, and so this whole trusting the process is very near and dear to my heart. So even though I was not sure how I would continue to live and continue to function. I trusted in the Lord, and to this day hold his hand, because as anyone who's experienced any type of grief will know, yes, squeezing it tight. You know, there are so many things that come out of that, the hurt, the loss, the family dynamics. I think I heard you mention that you're a Caribbean background, if I heard that correct, Reynette, as am I, you know, and I remember you mentioned about things being normalized. And, you know, with me being someone that is in this world of healing, I intentional to step down from even this happened. So, you know, dealing with various family dynamics and holding tight and has helped me to be able to make it each day, each moment. So had I, you know, try to just skip Lou to my Lou and just try to move on, like, you know, I'm strong, I'm whatever, I wouldn't be the woman that I am. So because of the Lord and his hand, trusting him, letting myself cry, letting myself take a day, set boundaries with whoever is not good for my spirit. All this trust helps me to this day, to this morning that I even be here with you ladies. So trusting the process is very near and dear to my heart, because it is the single most difficult thing in my life ever that I have ever had to deal with. So trusting the process, y'all, that's where it's at.
It's true. It's right where it's at. And, you know, thank you to everyone who's tuning in. And if you find yourself struggling with the process, like, you know, you're in something right now and you can't see the way out, and you are not sure that, oh, things are going to change. Like, you're looking at 3 people who have been through their processes and have come out, right? There's always a process going on, but everything doesn't last forever. And we're here to encourage you and say, you can make it through, keep going, you know, keep pushing, because you don't make it out of any of the processes that you sit down on, or you lay down on, or this is the place that I'm going to stay and I'm not going to move forward. So there's no way to get out of the process. I wanted to kind of bring up another topic, definitely based on what you were saying, Lakeisha, really focusing on your own process. So Reynette, what are some of the dangers of mimicking or copying or looking, you know where I'm going, looking at someone else's process and trying to adopt it? What does that look like, especially in this social media crazy age?
And oh my goodness, that's a really good question. Mimicking others, you know, what is the saying that comparison is the thief of joy?
Is
your journey isn't my journey, right? With the support of my coach, I recently got into the whole concept of values, right? And how values are birthed through experiences. Your own personal experience shapes and molds your value. So imagine me, who have experienced my life, right, which has its own blueprint. And here I am looking at someone else who has a completely separate experience in their own blueprint. They're doing what they can to survive based on their experiences. And here I am trying to mimic what you're doing because it works for you. It may not necessarily work for me. So comparison sets you up for failure. Okay. And we can define failure in so many different ways. But when I am looking at you and I'm looking at your timeline and like your processes and what are you doing exactly? What you have access to, I may not have access to. I may not have a strong social network or support system, right? I may not have the knowledge that's required to cope in certain ways. And if I don't have that access, yet I go and try to mimic what you're doing, where does that leave me if I cannot obtain it? What do you do eventually? You give up. because it feels like it's just impossible to do or impossible to acquire. It's not necessarily impossible. It's just that you're doing it in a way that doesn't work for you. So my strongest encouragement, and this goes for relationships, this goes for from an individual standpoint, it's start with you. Look at where you are, right? There's no comparison. If I'm a parent and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is how I parent my child, but it's not great because society wants me to parent a different way, then I lose the opportunity of really growing a strong bond with my child. Yes. Because I'm looking at how others parent instead of looking at him as an individual and saying, you know what, this is how my child functions. This is what works for us. So why not adopt what works for us instead of adopting what, how others function? So comparison, the thief of joy, is where I'll leave it.
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't think we realize it. We're looking at everyone's socials and we're seeing the snaps, we're seeing the TikToks that's now been reinstated. We see, we see things on Instagram, on Facebook, on all of our socials. We see these snapshots and these pictures of people's lives, and we're trying to mimic that. What you said was so profound. We're trying to mimic that without really having the resources to do so, without having the knowledge, without having the expertise, without having the experience. And it does lead to depression. It does lead to a very dark space when you cannot mimic the healing that you think you're seeing and that you think is going on because you don't have what they have. And then you feel like a huge failure. Yeah, you're set, and you set your healing process back and you're way back on the journey.
Yeah. You said it best, Steph. Setting yourself up for depression and sadness and anxiety. Why can't I get it? And ultimately you give up. There's no blueprint, right? On healing. Healing is different for everyone. So there's no set way, no set time frame. It's just, if this is what works for me, then this is what I'll do for as long as it requires. So, yeah.
Can you expand on that? For as long as it requires,
Absolutely. For as long as it requires means that I will lean into the process. I won't resist. What I like to use is the idea of conflict. When you think conflict, it's because there's two opposing sides, right? So if I am thinking one thing, but my actions mimic something else, or I'm doing something else, there's conflict. Yeah. So getting on one page is what's important, right? So if we think time frame, for as long as it requires, if I'm leaning into it, that means that I am here. I am here for whatever this has to offer. I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, when is this going to be over? I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, it's been a year. I should be completely healed by now. I'm not thinking, oh my goodness, how were they able to get through it, but I can't get through it? No, I'm leaning into it. I'm a part of this, right? So, as long as it requires means that I am adopting this as my personal journey. And because it's my personal journey, it will take as long as it takes for me. And I think that's very important to understand if you really want to know what trusting the healing process looks and feels like.
Lakeisha, do you want to chime in on that? I'm just sitting here taking a deep breath.
I'm sitting here taking it because it's so true. When we, as you say, lean in, and when we are present and we are mindful and we are just allowing whatever we're going through, whatever everyone else is going through, then we can have this this true healing, this grace towards ourselves, because to touch on what has already been said, sometimes we want to just have it be over. We want to stop the pain. We want the burn to stop. We want all these things to stop. And as you know, has been said by you lovely ladies, we're watching other people and it's like, well, they're already happy and whatever they've been through or whatever, they're already over it or whatever. When we just own it for ourselves and we take whatever time we need, we lean in, we embrace, we're mindful, we're present, then we're not worried about whatever is going around us in anyone's, journey. We're just really focused on ours, and we're healthier. We're more joyful. Even throughout the pain, we can experience that joy and that the happy moments. And we stop looking at it like happiness is a destination, or joy is a destination. We are looking at moments, on what we've experienced. We find joy in moments despite the ongoing challenges, grief, struggles, whatever. We really start to embrace, as you said, ourselves, and we grow in that way, and we're overall happier. Because when we try to just fast forward healing, we're not truly happy. We still are just frustrated, and little things aggravate us. But when we truly heal and we embrace, we're a little bit less bothered by things, because we are taking the time to process and we understand how people may be a little bit better if we take that time and we just kind of like have that patience in that process. So absolutely, we have to embrace it.
Yeah. We have to embrace it. And I think that flows us into, what does it look like for us to protect our process, so that we're saying, oh yeah, we're going there, right? What does it look like for us to protect our process? We have the honest conversations, because so many of us are in our process, or kind of right on the edge of our process, but we don't want to endure the pain. We don't want to endure the burn. We don't want to endure the hurt. We don't want to endure the ridicule, because if we're in a family that we're the only one starting our process, oh, you're about to get it. You're about to be the black sheep, the white sheep, the yellow sheep. You're about to be all the sheeps you can be, and you're about to be excluded. You're about to be ostracized. Many people don't want to do that. But let's say we're past that now, and we've decided to start our process. What does it look like to protect our process? We're trying to help the people who are all right there. I don't know if I should start this process. You're in it. What does it look like to protect it and to make sure that you have covered this process, so that you don't keep getting knocked off the path?
Oh man. If you have a why, then it's easier to, and I would compare this to any business. You start with the vision, you start with the mission of the business, and you always go back to the values, right? The mission of the business. The same for us. If we have our why, then it serves as our foundation. And if there's a strong foundation, then the likelihood of protecting that is very high, right? So how do we protect that? First of all, knowing who we are and what we stand for. So it's daily self-checks, making sure that we always come back to us, and we're always checking in, and we're always making sure that we are grounded, right? In doing that, you want to make sure that you are in this way. And I'm going to use this term gatekeeping. And I know in this modern day, it's like, if you're gatekeeping, then that's a negative thing. But in this case, gatekeeping is positive. Gatekeeping is, when you think of a gatekeeper, you think of someone who's at the gate securing whatever it is that's behind, on the other side of that gate, right? They're making sure that no one comes in, there's no violators, there's none of that. So becoming a great gatekeeper for yourself is very important. That protects you from intruders. You mentioned earlier how, like, once you're the one making the decision, you're going against the grain. Everyone's looking at you like you're the devil, So if I am grounded and I trust myself, I trust that I can make decisions that's going to help me with this process, I want to make sure that I'm also gatekeeping. If you're not healthy for my process, I want to make sure that you're not a part of this. Another big part of this is avoiding distractions. So this requires inner work. A lot of us, whenever we are going through anything, it always feels good to have a distraction. And distractions can fall into any category. It can be food. A lot of times we don't think about it that way, but anything to fill the void. So food, people, activities. I'm not saying don't utilize distractions, but you have to have balance. Don't over utilize distractions, because that's when it turns into something that's like not as healthy as it should or could be. So those are some ways to protect. Another way is consistency. So if you, and I'm going to go reference the foundational 4 or 5. If you have a, kudos to my coach, if you have a set routine, or if you have things that you intentionally do for yourself and you engage in them on a daily basis, it becomes a part of your regimen. It makes it easier to go through the healing process and not rush it, and protect the healing process. So those are just a few of what I would recommend that would help you protect your healing process.
Those were great. and so needed. So needed. And the distraction for me, right? The distractions that resonated the most, because for me, I get distracted helping other people, and I don't sometimes focus on what I need to be doing. I'm very helpful. I'll, look, anyone who's listening, if I'm sweeping by your front door, just let it happen, because you can be so helpful, and you could be just so caring, and just wanting to make sure everyone's okay. But then when it comes to doing your own inner work, you neglect it, and you realize that sometimes you're distracting yourself. Most times, all the times, let's say 99% of the times, you're distracting yourself because you don't want to deal with the work, and you're just like, I'm so helpful, I want to help you. Yeah, we want to help people, but the real thing is that we don't want to deal with our own stuff. So that resonated with me greatly. Like, what we think is a distraction might not be, and what we don't think of a distraction really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially those of us in these helping professions, we do it for our work by day, but sometimes we could just delve into it outside of by day as a means to keep us from doing that inner work. So that's a very good take on it, because like you said, sometimes people might think a distraction is just something that some might say is a vice or an addiction or something that may have a negative connotation. It could be that, but it could also be that of being in everybody else's business and helping everybody, but helping yourself. So that's very true as well. So yeah, me have to help this one, that one. So, no, you have to help yourself, okay? Because you got. So we could be good at that too. That's real.
Yes. Lakeisha, you hit that spot on, honestly. And I don't know that people realize that that when you are minding everybody else's business, it does keep you away from your own business. Like, you don't even realize that you have your own mess to deal with. So why am I so focused on everybody else's mess? But that is a big part of it. So it's interesting that Lakeisha brought that up. Very, very true.
Yeah, it's huge. And sometimes you don't realize it, but then sometimes you do. You say, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. And I know for me, it was me in the church. I lived at the church house Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it was just so much things to do and get into, and everybody needs help. But then my own stuff was neglected. And I'm wondering, oh man, why am I still going through? That's a major distraction. It looks good. Who would say that always being in church, I'm just using as an example, is a bad thing? It is when you're not taking care of your own home, this temple, who we are. So yeah, like meddling in people's business and always just what Lakeisha said, it's right. Like that's a big distraction, and it keeps us off our own healing journey, and it keeps us away from our process. So everybody, stay out of people's business.
Mind your own.
meddling and carrying on, and stay out. Okay,
Yeah,
deal with your own stuff. Deal with your own business because you have plenty of it. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a hard one though.
It is. Lakeisha, we can't hear you, my love. And it looks like you're saying some amazing stuff. That's why I'm like, hold on, let's looks like he was going in. No problem. But yeah, so I just kind of really emphasizing and focusing on those things that would keep us off of that process. And I love that you shed that light, on distractions, because I feel, and consistent, when you say consistency, like we want to be on this process, and it looks good and it sounds good, but we want to do it for 2 days and then expect just this well of healing to spring up in us, and that we're healed, we're done. After 2 days, we're just getting started, barely. So I love that. I love that aspect of it too. I thought that was super helpful and just super eye-opening, because we live in a microwave society where I can press a button on a microwave and my food is done. Or I could go into Netflix, Hulu, whatever, and my show is there and it loads up and boom. We apply that to every area of our life.
Yeah.
In that way. Mm-hmm. Not yet, Lakeisha. We can't hear you. Oh, that's okay. You'll get on. That's okay. But I think allowing people to see that process and know, like, okay, these are the steps I need to take, and this is what I need to do, to really make sure that we're moving forward. You brought up some amazing things. And I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh, she's such a therapist, because there's a certain way that there's a certain way that you approach life, once you've heard enough things, once you've seen enough things, there's a certain way you approach life. There's a directness, and it's not that there's an absence of kindness or niceness, but there's a directness that has to happen, because you almost have to directly hit people's emotions and feelings. And in those sessions, there's no game playing, in those sessions, because the emotions and feelings that are trying to overtake us, they're not playing games.
Yeah.
They're not pulling punches, So I love the directness and I love the practicality of it. I think that's the beautiful thing that I'm picking up. It's practical things that we can apply. Consistency, we're talking about distractions and really putting a guard on our process, which is what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lakeisha. No. Oh man, that's okay. Look, Lakeisha, you can type something in the chat if you want, and we can read it out, and then have Reynette answer it. But while we're doing that, I wanted to transition into what would be some recommendations. And Reynette has our practice, so this is some free material, but if you want more, we'll show you and let you know how you need to book. Okay, you need to book and some coins and get the help, right? But this is just, an overview and some tidbits. Let's say we're walking people down the journey, right? They're aware, they're admitting that now they want to start the process. Let's say they step their foot on the process, and let's say, they've decided to push past all the opposition that they're getting. What would you recommend for someone who really just wants to begin and jump into that, right? You've dealt with some of the preliminary things, like you recognize you need to be trusting the process and being on this healing process. What would you recommend? Like, what would you recommend someone do who wants to start that and kind of jump onto that journey?
Okay. Really, really good question. So I have this whole concept of quieting the background noise. And so, first of all, everything starts with acknowledgement, right? And awareness. So I acknowledge that something isn't right, right? I acknowledge that I have some healing to do, So identifying the need for healing. So what about what I'm experiencing requires healing? Is it the experience itself? Is it my perception of others, right? Is it relationship wounds? Am I having like self-esteem issues? Like, why do I need healing? Have I experienced trauma? Is it stress related? Are there a lot of unresolved emotions, right, stemming from things? Because a lot of times we go through the day to day without debriefing, without acknowledging that, hey, this was an experience that I had. It wasn't comfortable, right? What does this experience mean to me? So starting at ground zero, starting with yourself. I acknowledge that something's off and I need help with it. Another big one is self-forgiveness, which requires a lot of self-compassion. So I forgive myself for making a decision or taking a route that didn't turn out the way that I anticipated it to, right? I'm okay with that. I'm human. That means that I can make mistakes. It means that it's not end all be all. It means that I can recover from whatever bad decision that I made that led me up to this point. So definitely being gentle with yourself is a big one. So not because I'm a therapist, I'm going to recommend this, but I am a therapist. I know the healing nature of speaking, talking, right? Saying that, not just saying that, but talking about your experiences. So they tell you the best time to discuss anything is shortly after it happens. The more we hold on to it, the more we're self-medicating, because we're coming up with our own analogy and our own theories of why this may have happened. Why am I dealing with it this way? If you come to a professional such as myself, who's a counselor, you ladies too are in the coaching and mental health field, counseling field. You come to me, I don't have the answer. However, as you share, I am able to guide you, right? I'm able to help you piece together why this may have happened and how it led to this behavior or these thoughts. So seeking professional help means that you have the professional support. Not only do you have that professional backing, but what it means is this is your safe space. I get to come here for an hour and talk about me and focus on me. And I don't have to worry about someone going out into the streets to share my business. That's magical. But the biggest part of counseling is what you have to offer in counseling. It's not about the therapist. There is nothing to heal from if you have nothing to share. Like, how do I know what to help you with if you're not sharing? So I said I would copyright this, but I'm going to go ahead and patent it. But I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys anyways, right? So I have this theory that we are like hard drives, you know, those little flash drives that you carry around and save information on. So it's small, yet it's powerful. So you have the flash drive, which you can save information on. However, just because the information is there doesn't mean that it's stored here, but in order to access that information, you have to insert it into a computer. Not only insert it, once you insert it, you have to start clicking on the prompts to open up whatever information is stored on there. Okay, very powerful tool. Our senses, hearing, smelling, seeing, tasting, touching, that's the clicking. It's the inlet to everything that's stored within us, right? And so because we are this, we are, if it's trauma that's stored, it's there. Just because it doesn't reveal itself on a day-to-day basis doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that you've not been triggered through your senses for that information to be obtained. One of your senses hasn't been triggered for that automatically to pop up. So the goal would be to click by click access everything that's stored within you and talk about it, release it. That is the only way to release it, is to talk about it. So I said all of that to say that therapy is where it's at. Okay. There's none of this leaning on to, oh my goodness, we don't share our business. What happens in the house stays in the house. No, because you're the only one that's going to suffer through that. No one's going to know that you're suffering through sleepless nights, or you're crying constantly, or you can't focus or concentrate. So get some therapy or get some coaching. Sorry, I just leaned into that so much, but I'm a firm believer in counseling.
Lean in. Please lean in, because that's what we're advocating for. And this is my sis. I have another podcast with all three of us are therapists on that one, right? So healing is all around, right? It's everywhere. And the reality is we must push counseling. Not just because we're therapists, not just because we're in this helping profession, but we must push it because we know the benefits of it. And there are too many broken people who still feel that it's a taboo. I'm saying we, the Black diaspora, we are some of the most traumatized people in the entire world. And we reject therapy, and we reject the things that could actually help us. That's a scary situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But that is, to me, the biggest thing, and it can lead you to everything else that you need. So if you start by speaking to a professional, not just anyone, but someone who can actually guide you and help you walk through the process of healing, I think it's magical. So some other steps that you can take to help you through the healing process is start engaging in grounding exercises. Anything to bring you at peace, even if it's 5 minutes of quiet time and not thinking about anything. Oh my goodness. So you think of meditation, and I like to use guided meditation. If you're spiritual, and I recently learned this, that a lot of times the quiet noise, if you don't incorporate something spiritual, it can lead to more confusion. So I say guided meditation, let someone walk you through quieting the noise and deep breathing and just centering yourself. So I would say grounding techniques. Okay. And one of the strategies you can use is identifying what you see in your area, right? And not only what you see, but tuning into your senses. What can I see in this moment? What can I taste? What do I smell, right? What can I feel? What can I hear? If I am focused on these things, and that means that I have a moment of clarity. That means that I am not thinking about the stressors in my life. I'm actually thinking about what I see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. So practicing grounding techniques or strategies, even if it's for 5 minutes a day. Another one would be journaling. If you don't want to speak to someone, get it out somehow, some way. And journaling is definitely an avenue to help release whatever stressors you're holding on to. We all need support. So I am going to finish this whole process with saying that seek support. You cannot do anything alone. We were not created to be alone. When you think of our basic needs, we often think shelter, food, anything to survive. But a part of survival is connecting with people who are supportive, having someone that you can relate to, right? Having someone that you can reach out to and say, hey, this is what's going on with me. I don't know what to do with this, but I just want to talk about it. It's very helpful to have a support system and a support network. So those are some of the ways that you can definitely start the healing process.
For sure. Those are amazing. So I have Lakeisha, her sound isn't working, but I have her on the phone. I just want to see if we can hear Lakeisha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. See, trust in the process. Technical difficulties doesn't stop anybody.
Right. We just keep moving.
Keep moving. But absolutely support system that you ended on. I couldn't agree more.
Is it a little
Turn
echoey?
turn it down on the computer device, and maybe that'll help to just focus on the sound through the phone.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Because we hear an echo. Like you can, if you want to mute your laptop, or I mean, but I really I'm saying is that we are trusting the process. When there's a will, there's a way. You just keep it moving and going. But Reynette, you have truly given us gems and things to think about. We're grateful. In what you just said, you just did a nice wrap up, of the point that we're trying to say, and really letting people know, don't compare your process to anybody else, and really readying ourselves to get into the process and stick with the process, the consistency of the process, and making sure that we're really on that journey and path. Thank you so much for what you shared, for being here. And what you tapped on is the point of this podcast, right? Is the point of us being in these healing circles, that we've been through things and we've experienced things, but we can trust the process because we know the process works, and we know that we can come out of that darkness. So it's wonderful, and it is a shameless plug. Go see a therapist, go see a life coach, go see a counselor, a trusted person that can help you along your journey. We were not made to do it alone. We do not have everything we need all the time, but sometimes we just need someone to stir up a couple things so that we can know, oh, wow, I did have this inside of me, but it was hidden under trauma, under pain, and things like that. How do people get in touch with you, Reynette? I'm going to drop your website in our chats, but how do people get in touch with you? Let people know how they can connect with you if someone's looking, for a trusted and guided and well-educated and equipped therapist to walk them through this journey. How do people get in touch with you?
Wow. You can reach me. Oh my goodness, it's always hard. This part's always hard, right? But I am a counselor through Reynette Mental Health and Wellness. Reynette means to be awakened. And we are on all social media platforms. REV as in Victor, EYEMH.com. You can Google us, you'll find us. You can find us on IG, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're on all of the platforms. If you want to reach out, we are accepting new clients. We are a group practice. We have therapists, whatever type you need, we have. Just reach out to us. And you can email us at intake, INTAKE, at REVEYEMH.com. Easily accessible. I do provide couples counseling. That's my primary focus, couples marital relationship counseling. And I also provide individual counseling. So yeah.
Awesome. And for our viewers, we have put the link in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, to make sure that you are able to connect and check out the team. Look, there's help out there. Okay, there's assistance. There's people who want to help you on your journey and in your process. So trust the process, because the process works. We can hear you without the echo now.
Yeah, so great wrap up, ladies. Thank you so much, Reynette, for being on. We were so happy to have you, and I'm sure that the listeners were blessed to get all of your gems that you dropped. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, look, listeners, we're gonna have an after chat. Sorry, you're not invited to that. Unfortunately, you got your piece for about an hour, but we're gonna check in after and really just talk about it, because the process can be difficult. Again, trust the process because it works. And we'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for chiming in with your comments. We're all here together, and we're going to walk this thing out. So we will see you. Oh, I did want to make sure to mention, our next episode is our last one for the season. And I know. So we'll talk about that and what that looks like. This has been an amazing journey. And Reynette, thank you again for your expertise. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You ladies are awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, y'all. Blessings.